Now coming to the next lecture, that is selection of microcontroller. Right? Now in this lecture we will see how to select a proper microcontroller for the project you are going to do. That means if you are doing the project on your microcontroller, how to select a proper microcontroller that is suitable for your project. Let us see how to select a proper microcontroller for the project you are going to do. Right? Now we have different microcontrollers in the real-time world. You have 8-bit microcontroller, 16-bit microcontroller, 32-bit microcontroller, and also 64-bit microcontroller. Right? You have different microcontrollers in the real time. Now among those different microcontrollers, let us see how to select a proper microcontroller that is suitable for your application or the project you are going to do. Right? Now selecting the proper microcontroller unit. Now in this lecture we will see the selection of microcontroller. Now a proper microcontroller has to be selected for your application. Right? You have to choose a proper microcontroller that is suitable for your application. Why? Because the total success or the failure of your project will depend on the microcontroller unit only. If you have chosen the right microcontroller, then you can proceed with your success of your project. If you have chosen the wrong microcontroller, now that may result in the failure of your project. That means you have to select a proper microcontroller for your application, which is a critical decision that will control the success or failure of your project. Right? Now there are thousand, as I have said, there are thousand different types of microcontrollers. That means you have very large number of microcontrollers in the market. Right? Now each microcontroller is different from one another. If you consider 8-bit, under 8-bit you have different microcontrollers, under 16-bit you have different microcontrollers. Now similarly under 32-bit and also under 64-bit you have different microcontrollers. Now if you consider two different microcontrollers under the 8-bit, now you can see the different features between those two microcontrollers. That means one microcontroller is different from other microcontroller by its features. That may be either program memory, or that may be either data memory, or that may be the serial communication that are supported by those particular microcontroller. Some may support SPI, some may support inter-integrated circuit serial communication protocol. Like this, one microcontroller is different from other microcontroller. You can't find any microcontroller with the same features. Right? You have different instruction set also, and also you have different register set also. Right? Now what I want to say is, whatever the different types of microcontrollers that are available in the market, now those will have unique features. Whatever the different microcontrollers that are available in the market, those will have unique features. Right? Now that may be either the program memory, or that may be either the data memory, or it may be timers or counters that are involved in the microcontrollers, or it may be it may be the serial communication protocol that is supported by the microcontrollers. Like this there will be a different features. If you compare one microcontroller with the other microcontroller, you can find different features. Right? That is what I want to say. Now as I have said, you have 5-bit microcontrollers. If you consider 8-bit microcontrollers, if you consider 8-bit microcontrollers, what is the first microcontroller? Is your 8051. 8051 is your basic microcontroller, which is used for your basic operation. Now after that you can see AVR microcontroller, Atmel's AVR microcontroller, which is also an 8-bit microcontroller. And after that you can see PIC, which is developed by the microchip, which is developed from the microchip technology, that is also an 8-bit microcontroller. Like this you have different microcontrollers. Right? Now among this availability of different microcontrollers, let us see what are the factors that are included in selecting a proper microcontroller for your application or for the project. Right? Now let us see one by one factor. Now factors that are included in selection of microcontroller. Right? Now the first factor that we are going to discuss is about hardware requirements. The first factor that we are going to discuss about is hardware requirements, right? Now before selecting a proper microcontroller for your application or for the project you want to do, first you need to do is you have to search everything about your project before going to selection of a microcontroller. You first thing you have to do is you have to search everything. You have to have a clear idea about your application or the project. Initially you have to have a clear idea about your application or the project you want to do, right? Next you have to make a list of all the external interfaces that are to be connected with the microcontroller, right? What you have to do, first you have to have a clear idea about your application. Next you have to make all the external interfaces. What are the interfaces that are required to be interfaced with your microcontroller? That things you have to make a note, right? And next along with their technical specification of your external interface. What I want to say is, first you have to have a clear idea of your application. Whatever the application you want to implement, about that applications you have to have a clear idea. That means what are the components that are required in that application, right? Now that maybe you can consider what is the memory, you can consider how much RAM memory or how much ROM memory. Like this you have to make a note of all the requirements in your application, right? First initially you have to have a clear idea about your application. Then next you have to make a list of all the external interfaces that are to be connected with your microcontroller, right? Now one application is different from another application. Some may require external interfaces, some may require serial communication protocol, also vary, right? Now some may require SPI, some applications may require serial communication protocol like SPI, and some applications may require serial communication protocol like I2C. That means you have to have a clear idea about your application, right? Initially you have to have a clear idea about your application. The next thing you have to do is you have to list out all the external interfaces. Whatever that means, what are the things, what are the devices that are to be connected to the microcontroller. That devices you have to know it earlier only, right? That means you have to make a list of all the external interfaces, nothing but what are the external devices that you want to connect to your microcontroller under your application. That external devices you have to make a note of it, right? Next, coming to along with the technical specifications of that external devices also, right? Now coming to next thing, what you have to do here, first you have to have a clear idea, right? You have to have a clear idea of your application, right? You have to have a clear idea of your application. And next, list out all external interfaces, nothing but external devices we can say. That means in your applications, what are the devices that you want to connect with your microcontroller, that devices you have to make a list of it, right? Along with technical specification, right? Along with technical specification, right? And next coming to next point. Now here you have to know a special note about the communication interfaces, right? Here you have to know about the communication interfaces. That means whether you require SPI, that means serial peripheral interface, or whether you require I2C, or whether you require RS-232 protocol, that point you have to make a note, right? Now next thing is you have to make a special note about the communication interfaces like UART, universal receiver and transmitter, which is also a serial communication protocol, right? You have UART, USART, right? UART, universal asynchronous receiver and transmitter. And next we have RS-232, next we have SPI, and next we have I2C. Behind this you have several serial communication protocols also. And next thing you have to note it that you have to choose a proper serial communication protocol that is used for communicating with communication between microcontroller and the external connected device. That means what I want to say is you have to choose a particular serial communication protocol. That may be either SPI, that may be either UART, or that may be either I2C, or that may be either RS-232 based on application, right? The serial communication protocol choosing will vary from application to application. You have to choose a proper serial communication protocol such that you can communicate your microcontroller with the connected devices, right? Now next, and you should also have an idea about whether your project needs internet connection or not, right? Whatever the hardware requirements, right? Whatever the hardware requirements that are required for your applications, you have to make a note of it under the first factor of your selection of microcontroller. Coming to the first factor of your selection microcontroller is your hardware requirements. Initially you need to have an idea about your application. Next you have to make a note of all the devices that you want to connect with your microcontroller, and next you have to make a note of the serial communication protocol, proper serial communication protocol. You have to choose a proper serial communication protocol such that that protocol is used for communicating your microcontroller with the connected devices. And next you have to have an idea about your application, whether it requires internet or not, right? And internet connection is required or not for your application should also be known by you. And next we have, and the next hardware requirement is your IO pins, input or output pins, right? Nothing but input or output pins. Now here you have to have a clear idea about how many output pins or how many input pins are required for your project, right? Now this comes under the hardware requirement. The first factor for selection of microcontroller is the first step. Before selecting a microcontroller, the first step you have to follow is this thing. First you have to have a clear idea, and next make a list of all the external devices, and next choose a proper serial communication protocol, and next whether your project requires internet connection or not, that you have to find out. And next how many IO pins, input or output pins, right? How many IO pins? So you have several microcontrollers. If you consider 8051, you have 32 IO pins, right? Among the 32 IO pins, how many IO pins are required for your project? That also you have to find, right? Now this comes under the first factor of your microcontroller. Now coming to second factor is your software requirements, right? Coming to second factor is your software requirement. Now after knowing the hardware requirements, you need to know about the software requirement. Initially you have to find out hardware requirements of your project. Next go for software requirements, right? Now what are the software requirements? Now here comes the category of processing speed, nothing but microcontroller speed, processing speed. You have to make a list of software requirements for your projects, like processing speed and processing power, and next timing constants, etc. That means you have to make a note of the processing speed of your processing speed that is required for your project, and also processing power that is required for your project, right? What is the processing speed that is required for your project, that also you have to make a note. And whatever the processing power that is required for your project, that also you have to note it. Because why? Because see, maximum bit size for your microcontroller is 64. If you increase the bit size, that consumes large power, and that means if it is consuming large power, means it is having more processing speed, right? That's why initially you have to make a note of how much processing speed is required for your project and how much processing power is required for your project, and some timing constants. If those are required for your project, you have to make a note of it, right? Now coming to the third factor. First we have found out hardware requirements, next we have found out software requirement, and next is your microcontroller architecture, right? Now after knowing the hardware and the software requirements for your project, now you can decide the required architecture for your project. That means any microcontroller that is available in the market, you can see very large number of microcontrollers in your markets, right? Now mainly two architectures are used for the design of microcontroller. See, whatever the microcontrollers are available in the market, those are available in the form of two architectures. First one is, you might have known all this, right? But again I am saying, von Neumann architecture, and next one is Harvard architecture. See, any microcontroller that is available in the market, that has to be designed with the first architecture or with the second architecture. Now coming to von Neumann architecture, it is based on the, coming to the first architecture is your von Neumann architecture. Now it is based on the computer program concept, right? That means if you see this, I will draw the diagram, then you will have a clear idea. Now this is your central processing unit, and here it is your program and data memory. If you see this structure, now you can fetch the address by the address bus, and next you can fetch the data by the data bus, right? Now if you see, this is the structure of first architecture, that is von Neumann architecture, right? Now if you see the figure of your von Neumann architecture, in this architecture, the instruction, if you see the program and the data, both are stored in the same memory. That means instruction, program is nothing but set of instruction. That means instruction and data, program data, both are stored in the same memory, right? If you see this figure, CPU is nothing but central processing unit. If you see this figure, both the set of instructions, program and the data, are stored in the same memory. Now because of this architecture, the data transfer and instruction fetching can't be performed at the same time. That is the disadvantage. The program, because of this storing of program and the data in the same memory, you can't fetch the instruction and the data, right? You can't fetch the instruction and the data at the same time, right? Why? Because you are storing the program and data in the same memory, right? If you store the program memory in one slot and data memory in one slot, at that time there is a chance for getting the instruction and also data at the same time. That is about your Harvard architecture, right? Now let me briefly explain the next page. First is your von Neumann architecture, right? Now in this architecture, the program, memory and data, the program and data, set of instructions and the data are stored in the same memory, right? Now because of this, you can fetch the address by address bus and data by data bus. Now because of storing the program and data in the same memory, you can't fetch the instruction and data at the same time, because you have only single bus. Either you can fetch the instruction or you can fetch the data memory, but not at the or you can fetch the data but not at the same time. Now coming to Harvard architecture, now I'll draw a figure, then you will have a clear idea. Now this is your CPU, and next you have program memory, and next you have data memory. Now here the program memory and data memory are stored individually. Now we have address bus for your program memory and data bus, you can say fetch bus here, fetch bus for your program memory, and here also you have address bus, and next you have data bus, right? Now here if you see this structure, now it has a separate storage for instruction and program. It has a separate storage for program and the data. That means you are separately storing the set of instructions and the data, right? Now because of the separate storage of program and the data, now it uses two separate buses for the transmission of data and fetching of instruction, right? It uses two separate buses. If you see here, there is only one bus either to fetch the program or either to fetch the instruction or the data, but here you have two different buses for fetching the program and the data, right? Now the mostly used architecture is your Harvard architecture, because here you have a disadvantage, that is you can't fetch the program, that is you can't fetch the instruction and the data at a time, but here there is a possibility you can fetch, there is a possibility of fetching the instruction and data at a time, right? Now the third, according to your project, according to your applications, you have to know the architecture of your microcontroller. That means after knowing the hardware and the software requirements for your project, next you have to decide the architecture of microcontroller. That means whether your application requires von Neumann architecture or whether your application requires Harvard architecture, that you have to make a note of it, right? First is your hardware requirements, and next is your software requirements, and next is to decide the architecture of your microcontroller. Like according to your application, according to your project, which architecture of microcontroller is suitable for it, you have to choose, right? Now see, mostly preferred one is Harvard architecture, right? Mostly preferred one is Harvard architecture. Why? Because you can fetch the instruction and you can fetch the data at a time, which is because of that the speed will be high, the speed of execution will be high. Mostly preferred one is Harvard, right? Now coming to the fourth factor, right? We have seen three factors, right? Coming to the fourth factor is your memory requirement. Coming to the fourth factor is your memory requirement, right? Now while selecting a microcontroller, you should look out for the memory associated with the microcontroller. See, basically you have RAM memory and ROM memory, right? Nothing but program memory or the data memory, we can say it, right? Now basically, now some microcontroller will provide flash memory also, right? Now when selecting a microcontroller, you should know the memory of your RAM, ROM and flash, and you have some EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, right? Some supports EEPROM also, some microcontroller supports EEPROM also, right? Now while choosing the microcontroller, make sure that you have to choose a microcontroller such that it has large amount of program memory and large amount of data memory, right? Now you know ROM memory and RAM memory, right? ROM memory and RAM memory, read-only memory, random access memory, this thing. Now RAM is volatile memory. That means when you switch off the computer, that the data stored in that memory will get erased. Now coming to the ROM memory, it is a non-volatile memory. Now nothing but this is a program memory. ROM is the program memory and RAM is the data memory. ROM is the program memory and ROM is the data memory. You have to choose a microcontroller such that it should have some large amount of RAM and ROM. This should be high. Why? Because it should not run out of spaces for any variable or the program. If you choose the large memory microcontroller, if you have choose the microcontroller with the large amount of memory, that will be useful. If you choose the microcontroller with short memory, what happens here is the space, if the space is not sufficient for your application, then that is of waste. That's why you have to choose a microcontroller with more amount of program memory and more amount of data memory. Why? Because if you choose a microcontroller with less amount of program memory or less amount of data memory, you can't execute your application, right? Because the space will run off. That's why you can't execute further. That's why you have to choose a microcontroller with more program memory and with more data memory, right? Now these are the four factors we have seen. Now coming to the fifth factor is your cost requirement and power requirement, right? Now coming to the fifth factor is your cost and power requirement. Cost and power requirement, right? Now coming to the cost and power requirement, now this will vary from one microcontroller with the other, right? One microcontroller is having high cost, one microcontroller is having less cost. Now similarly, one microcontroller may consume large amount of power and one microcontroller may consume less amount of power. That means cost and power requirement vary from one microcontroller to another microcontroller. If your project requires complex functions and operations, if your project requires, that means if your application, I can say if your application requires complex functions and operations, then the cost will be higher. Then the cost will be higher because you are choosing the at most the present running microcontroller. That's why the cost will be high. Now if it is for a simple project, then you can go for, depending on the application only. If your application is large, then the cost of your microcontroller will be large. If the application is less, that means only a basic application you are going to do, now the cost of your microcontroller will be less. You can use a basic microcontroller like 8051. With that you can implement your application. What I want to say is, if your application is large in implementation, then the cost of your microcontroller will be high because you have to choose a running microcontroller. That will be anyhow, it will be high, nothing but the 64-bit microcontroller. If you are doing a basic application like addition, subtraction, like the basic application, if you are going to implement, now that requires a basic microcontroller, that is 8051, and the cost is also less, right? Now the cost of your microcontroller will depend upon application. What I want to say is, if your application is large, the cost will be high. If the application is less, the cost will be low. Now similarly, coming to the power requirement. Now here the power consumption is also an important factor to consider. Why? Because microcontroller with high processing power will consume more energy. Microcontroller with, if it is of high processing power, right? Initially you have to make a note under software requirements. If your application requires high processing power, right? If your application requires high processing power, then it will consume lot of energy, right? Now so make sure that microcontroller you are choosing satisfy the power requirements of your project. Initially you have to make a note of your processing power under your software requirements. If the processing power is high, then the power consumed by your microcontroller will be high. If the processing power is less, then the power consumption is also less, right? Now that factor you have to make a note of it. Now coming to the sixth one is your bit size. As I have said, there are 8-bit microcontrollers, there are 16-bit microcontrollers, and there are 32-bit microcontrollers, and also there are 64-bit microcontrollers. Now here the bit size is very, very important under your application. Bit size is very, very important in selecting a microcontroller for your application, right? Now the performance of the microcontroller increases with increase in the bit size. The performance, this point you have to make a note. The performance of microcontroller increases with increase in bit size. That means if you are choosing a microcontroller with now the running microcontroller is of 64-bit. That means if you are choosing a microcontroller with 64-bit, now the bit size is high, anyhow the performance of the microcontroller is also high. That means if you are increasing the bit size, the performance of it also increases. That I want to say, right? Now 8-bit microcontroller, you have, now the available bits are 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit, right? Now 8-bit microcontroller will be having 8 data lines, right? 8-bit microcontroller will be having 8 data lines, and the representation of 8 data lines we have, and you have 8-bit registers you have, and 8-bit instruction set you have. Whatever the 8-bit instructions you have, and 2 power 8 memory locations you have, like this, right? The total features, the total features of a particular microcontroller will depend on its bit only. If it is of 8-bit microcontroller, it will be having 8 data lines, 2 power 8 memory locations, 8-bit registers, and 8-bit instruction set. Instruction set is of 8. Now coming to 16-bit, you will have 16-bit data lines and 2 power 16 memory locations, and similarly 2 power 16 memory locations, and similarly 16-bit registers. Registers are of 16-bit. That means you can store the data which is of 16-bit under your registers of 16-bit microcontroller, and similarly 16-bit instructions. Like this is also same for 32-bit and also 64-bit. Now here you have to choose a proper microcontroller. That means you have to know whether you require 8-bit microcontroller, or whether you require 16-bit microcontroller, or whether you require 32-bit, or whether you require 64-bit. For a basic application of your project, you can go for 8-bit, right? For a basic application of your project, you can simply go for 8-bit. Now if your application is large, you can go for 32 or 64-bit. If you are increasing the bit size, then automatically the performance of your microcontroller is also increasing. Now that is the 6th important factor in selection of the microcontroller. Now coming to the 7th factor is your support for microcontroller. That means while choosing a microcontroller for your project, you have to look about supporting documents. While before choosing a microcontroller project, you have to look for supporting document, right? You have to look for supporting documents. Now that includes code, samples, reference, designs like this, etc. Why? Because why you have to look for supporting documents means, if you face any problem during the step-by-step implementation of your project, right? Now let us assume you are going to implement your project step by step, but in between you got stuck. That means in between you got stuck, then you can refer the supporting documents. To come out of it, right? Now the last and most important factor in selection of microcontroller is, while choosing a microcontroller for your project, you have to look for supporting document that includes code, sampler, research, designs, like this. Now why? Because if you face any problem during the step-by-step implementation of your project, you can read these documents and you can ask for help. Through forums. That's why you have to refer these supporting documents, right? Now it is important to select a microcontroller, with a good development kit. Always the kit should be in good condition, right? Now also you have to consider the availability of assembler, because you'll write the program for this in assembly language. That's why assembler should be there, and debugger should be there in order to execute it, and compiler, emulator. All these features should be present under your project, right? Now also consider the availability of assembler, debugger, compiler, and emulator. You have to also consider these 4 features while choosing the microcontroller, right? Now if you have gone through all these 7 factors, then you can choose a proper microcontroller. For your application, right? Now let me briefly explain again. Now coming to the selection of the microcontroller, right? Now this selection of microcontroller is very very important, because the total success or failure of your application or the project will depend on the selection of microcontroller. That means if you choose a proper microcontroller that is suitable for your application, you can succeed with your application. If you choose a wrong microcontroller, then that may result in the failure of your application or the project, right? Now there are several microcontrollers available in the market. You have 8-bit microcontroller, 16-bit microcontroller, 32-bit and 64-bit. Now one microcontroller is different from another microcontroller with a different features. If you consider 8-bit, under 8-bit also you have 5 different types. Now that 5 different types is different from one another in its feature. In its feature, you can consider data memory, program memory, timers, counters, and the serial communication protocol that it is supporting, right? One microcontroller is different from other microcontroller. You have to remember that one microcontroller is different from other microcontroller in its features, right? Now coming to the factors, right? Now let us see what are the factors that are included in selection of the microcontroller. That means what you have to keep in mind while selecting a proper microcontroller is your first factor is your hardware requirement. Now before selecting a proper microcontroller, you have to have a clear idea about your application, right? You have to have a clear idea about your application. Next, you have to make a list of all the external interface. That means whatever the devices that you want to connect with your microcontroller under your application, that devices you have to make a note of it. And next, you have to choose a proper serial communication protocol for communication of your microcontroller with the connected devices. Either it may be RS-232 or SPI or I2C. Basically you will refer UART, right? Universal Asynchronous Receiver and Transmitter. That serial communication protocol is basically referred, right? And also you have to know whether the internet connection is required or not. And also you have to know how many IO pins are required for your application. If you consider 8051, 32 IO pins are available. Among that 32 IO pins, how many pins are required for your application, that also you have to make a note of it, right? Now coming to the software requirements. Now once you have done with the hardware requirements, once you have noted your hardware requirements, next is your software requirement. That means you have to note down that means you have to make a note of the processing speed for your application and the processing power for your application and some timing constants, right? Like this, the software points, whatever your application requires, that you have to make a note of, right? Now once the hardware and the software requirements are done, next is you have to find out the microcontroller with your architecture, required microcontroller, required architecture of your micro. Basically any microcontroller is available, either it may be in the Van Neumann architecture or it may be Harvard architecture. Now coming to the Van Neumann architecture, in this architecture of, while designing a microcontroller, that microcontroller either it may be designed in the Van Neumann architecture or it may be designed in the Harvard architecture, right? Now coming to Van Neumann architecture, both program memory and data memory are stored at same place. Now coming to the Harvard architecture, those are stored independently. Now the disadvantage of Van Neumann architecture is you can't fetch the instruction and the data at a time, because there you have only one bus, right? Coming to the Harvard architecture, since those are stored independently, you have address bus individually, and fetch bus also you have individually, and data bus also you have individually. Now the advantage of Harvard architecture is you can fetch the program, nothing but instruction and the data at it. Now the third factor is here you have to select a microcontroller with the Van Neumann architecture or Harvard architecture that is suitable for your application. That means you have to choose a microcontroller with the Van Neumann architecture or Harvard architecture. That means microcontroller with Van Neumann architecture is suitable for your application or not, or microcontroller with Harvard architecture is suitable for your application, or that you have to find it. But basically Harvard architecture is preferred, right? You can simply go for Harvard architecture, because here you are choosing, because here you can fetch at a time program, and the data can be fetched at a time, hence the processing speed also high, right? Now coming to the memory requirement, fourth important factor is your memory requirement. You have to choose a microcontroller with large amount of program memory, nothing but ROM memory, and with large amount of data memory, nothing but RAM. Why? Because if you choose a microcontroller with less RAM and ROM, there may be chance of running out of space. Because of that, you can't execute your application. That's why you have to choose a ROM and RAM with large amount of memory. Now coming to the fifth important factor is your cost and power requirement, right? Now if your application is high, if you are going to implement the largest application, anyhow the cost of you will use 64-bit microcontroller, the cost of it is also high. If you are implementing a basic application that requires a basic microcontroller, that is 8051, its cost is less. Now coming to the power requirement, right? Coming to the power requirement, if you are using a large bit microcontroller, it consumes large power. If you are using 8-bit microcontroller, large bit microcontroller is 64-bit, and least bit microcontroller is your 8-bit. If you are using 64-bit, it consumes large power, more power. If you are using 8-bit, it consumes less power. Now coming to the bit size, this is very very important while selecting a microcontroller, because a basic application is enough with your 8-bit microcontroller that contains 8-bit data lines, 8-bit registers, 8-bit instruction set, right? 2 power 8 memory location, and you have 16-bit microcontroller, 32-bit microcontroller, and 64-bit microcontroller. If your application is high, you can go for 64-bit. If your application is basic, you can go for 8-bit, right? Now if you are using the largest bit microcontroller, then the performance of your microcontroller is directly proportional. The performance of your microcontroller is directly proportional to bit size of microcontroller, right? Now coming to the last important factor is support for microcontroller. See, you'll have supporting documents. You have to refer those supporting documents. That includes code, sampling, and research designs, right? That includes code samples and research design. You have to look into the supporting documents, because if you have while implementing the step, that means if you face any problem, if you face any problem during the step-by-step implementation of your project, why you have to report support documents is, now you are doing the project step by step, right? If you are doing the project step by step and in between you got stuck, in order to come out of it, you have to refer these supporting documents, right? You have to refer these supporting documents. You can read these documents, or you can ask the help. By reading these documents you can solve it. If not, you can ask for help, right? You can ask for help. And also while selecting a proper microcontroller, consider the availability of assembler, right? While selecting a proper microcontroller, you have to choose a microcontroller such that these factors also should be considered, right? Also consider the availability of assembler, compiler, debugger, and emulator while choosing the microcontroller. If you follow all these factors step by step, then you can choose a proper microcontroller for your application, right? Now this is about how to select a proper microcontroller for your application or your product, right? Thank you.